Hi, friends. Hi, this is Angela with Wildvioletsart. Thank you for joining me for Marvelous Monday. We're going to be working on tips and tricks for the beginner stamper, and I'm so glad that you were able to join me. I'm going to start out with just the basics of what Stampin' Up! Is and what I do. So I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I sell stamps, cardstock, and inks, other tools, adhesives that allow you to make cards, scrapbooks, um, 3D paper gifts, anything of that nature. We have gift bags, boxes, all kinds of fun stuff. So what I'm going to do is just show you some of the basics of our catalog. All right. So here's our basic catalog. This is the annual catalog, and it starts in May and goes through the end of April each year. So it's kind of an odd year, but that's how they've been doing it. And the catalogs are always beautiful, and they're filled with all kinds of really beautiful ideas. So you'll find in here, there a table of comments, and what you'll find is they have like kits, and they have inks, stamps, stamp blocks that the stamps will adhere to, and I'll show you a little bit about that. And everything is so well coordinated. So one of the things that I fell in love with Stampin' Up! Years ago when I started, when my son was just a little tiny guy, was how well their inks and cardstocks coordinated. If it's in that color family, they go together. And so there's not a lot of guesswork as to whether or not something will clash or whether something works. But also when they print their specialty paper, their 12 by 12 papers, their inks, their ribbons, they all coordinate really, really beautifully. And so it makes my OCD happy. So as you can see, they just have really beautiful things and lots of ideas for you to look through as well. So today I'm going to be showing you a really beautiful stamp set, and it has a coordinating punch. We're going to just keep it really basic, and we're just going to stamp on white cardstock, and then I can show you what it looks like when you add a punch to it. And I'm going to be using a photopolymer stamp set instead of a rubber stamp. Those are the easiest for beginner stampers to use because you can see through the block and you can see the stamp and where you're going to be stamping. So when you're going through the catalog, so they'll have all these really beautiful stamp sets, and they'll give you coordinating ideas of how to create cards, and you can copy them exactly. Stampin' Up! Has ingredients lists, which means that they give you all the things, the information of what they use to make each one of the projects. So ask your demonstrator or ask me for that, and I can send that to you. But then further back in the catalog, it starts getting into their color collections and their inks. So you can get the cardstock, you can get classic stamp pads, and this is one of their classic stamp pads. They have ink refills for it because after a while it starts getting used, and as you pull the ink out by stamping, you may have to refill, so they last for years. And then they have markers, and I'll show you more about that stuff, but tonight we're just going to stick to the stamp pad, and we're going to use basic white cardstock. They have coordinating ribbon, they have adhesives, they have markers that coordinate, they have watercolor pencils, there's all kinds of tools. They come up with templates, paste, knives, for anything from the beginner stamper to the avid stamper. Of course, their paper is just beautiful. They've got all these different pattern papers that are just gorgeous, and they've got stamp sets that coordinate with them as well. And then they have some basic cardstocks that are just in the color family with different patterns and can go with anything. They have host rewards. So if you decide to have a party, if you invite a few friends, I could come over, and what I would do is I would demonstrate a couple of simple cards, and then the third item would be something that everyone would put together. And typically I try to demonstrate something the hostess wants. And based on the hostess's sales, any sales of $150 or more, they would start getting rewards. And so it would start at 10%, and then it goes beyond that for the hostess. And depending on how much sales, you can end up getting hostess items. You can get the 10% in sales. You don't have to just pick particular items. You can pick anything out of the catalog. And if you have a bigger party, you can end up getting 50% off on something. So they have specialty papers. They have embellishments galore, which everybody needs embellishments. Ribbons. And then they get to all their punch bundles. And when I say bundle, they have a stamp set. Let me go back to the one that we're going to be working with tonight. They have a stamp set, and then they have a punch. But when you buy them together, you get 10% off, which is a really great discount, because I always like saving money, especially with a bundle. And so that's what I mean by bundle. It means that you get 10% off between the two of them when you purchase them together as a bundle. But they have all these different sets, all these different bundles, and then they have more punches for different things, like for different sentiments and others that coordinate with stamp sets that are in here. Then we have cutting tools, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the basic of the cutting tools. They have, of course, the Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. And if you've come to one of my parties or one of my classes, I love using the dies and the Stamp and Cut Emboss machine, and I'll show that later. And then they have more bundles that have to do with dies and such. And then at the very end of the book, they've got embossing folders, which add beautiful texture to your cards. And again, that'll be something I'll do in the future. I'm going to try to keep this really basic because I want to be able to let you know that anybody can make beautiful cards. Okay, so the annual catalog is 1 year long, from May to April. Then they have little mini catalogs twice a year. This is the mini catalog that goes from July to December, and it goes on the same premise. So you'll see stamp sets by themselves. You'll see some with coordinating dies or coordinating punches, or like this Lights Aglow. We did this, we used this last weekend for my class, and we made beautiful projects from that. But again, towards the back, it starts showing you all the embellishments, the specialty papers, the embossing folders, and the punches. So same thing, when you want to be a hostess, you get 10% with $150 sale, $300 you get 12%, and then $450 or more you get 14%, $600 or more you get 16%. And once it's over $450, then you get 150% off item. Okay, so that's just the basic of the catalog. So these are the clear blocks that Stampin' Up! Sells that you would adhere your stamps to. Now this is Lovely and Lasting, and it has this coordinating punch, and you can see that this punch matches this design right here. Let me push this up a little bit. So this punch matches this design right here, and we're going to use this, but first I'm going to show you how to make a card. Okay. So this is Stampin' Up's cutter, and it does cutting, and it also does, it'll put grooves in the paper so that it folds nicely. So You can use Stampin' Up's or you can use another cutter, but I want to say that Stampin' Up, stands behind their merchandise, and I'm very happy with this cutter. It's worked really well. It's got this great little arm, so if you're trying to measure along here, you can measure up to 17 inches, but it works great for 12 by 12. And this is over 12 inches long as well, so your large scrapbooking paper fits in this as well. Okay, so this is just an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and Stampin' Up has different weight cardstock. They've got a basic white that's I'm not sure what the weight is, but they've also got a basic white thick that's really great for cards, but we're just going to use the regular basic white today. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this in half, and we're going to score along the middle of that. So to cut it in half, obviously 11 inches is 5.5 inches. So I'm going to put it at the 5.5 inch mark right here, and I'm just going to cut it in half. And then for 8.5, half of that is 4.25. And then I'm going to use the scoring blade to make this indentation. So I don't know if you can see that or not. But what that does is it allows you to fold it without there being any ripping or tearing. So I'm going to do this to the second piece of paper because I'm going to show you two different cards. So again, I'm going to 4.25, and I'm going to use the scoring blade. Okay. There's other ways to make cards than that, but we're going to start with this design. Okay, so then I'm going to use a bone folder, and what that does is it just gets it so that your cardstock lays down flat. So this is going to be my basic card, and this is my stamp set. So just open up the case, and I'm going to pull out, so this is a clear photopolymer stamp. I'm going to use this really beautiful flower. Stampin' Up has different sizes of blocks, and this is the E block. And when you're looking at the catalog and you're looking to purchase a stamp set, down at the bottom of the description of the stamp set, you're going to find that they give you the sizes of the blocks that you need. So let me get this over in the right area. So you can see right here, they tell you which sizes of blocks that you need that go with the stamp set. So they try to make it really easy for you. And of course, I can help you with any of that as well. So we're going to use a really pretty flower. So you can see how pretty that is. And we're going to use the thank you verse. And when I'm doing verses, what I like to do is I like to line up, I use a grid paper, Stampin' Up sells this as well, and I'm going to line up my verse with that, and then I'm going to line up my block with the grid, and that way when I'm going down to stamp, there's a good chance I'll get a really nice level verse. Okay? All right. So here's the stamp pad, and I know some people have trouble with opening these, but what you want to do is there's a groove right here, and I'm going to just get my thumb nail under that. I'm going to pull it back, and I'm going to slide it in. It takes a little bit of practice. I've been obviously doing this for a long time. They changed their stamp pad design a number of years back, and it took all of us a little bit of time. But it's just fold it back and slide it down, and then it's secure. Okay, so a really big image like this, I'm going to have to pat it in a number of different places in order to get the ink on the entire design. And then I'm just going to stamp in the middle of the paper. I'm going to hold it there for a second. Isn't that beautiful? Now, should something not work out like you want it to, you can always turn something over and start with the other side. Let me grab my Stampin' Up! Has these chamois, and I use them to clean my stamps. I clean them right away, and they don't get as stained. Okay, now I'm going to add the verse. So I just let it sit there for a minute so that the ink can get in there. Isn't that a pretty little thank you card? And I'm done with the card. Now, if I want to add a little bit more to it, there's obviously embellishments, but there's also, we can use the punch, and that adds a little bit of a 3D element to my card. So I'm just going to put my thank you on here. Clean it off. Then it's always a good idea to close it. And then I want to use this really pretty label surround. And I'm going to there. Put in my stamp. And now I'm going to come in with the punch. So the way these punches work, you unlock them and they come apart. So squeeze it together, you lock it, you unlock it, and it comes apart. So I'm going to put it upside down so I can watch where I'm putting my verse, my little sentiment. And I'm wanting to line it up. And then I could pop up the verse using little dimensionals. They're called Stampin' Dimensionals, and what they are is they're little foam adhesives, and they're two-sided. This is their large dimensionals. And it just adds a 3D element to my card as well. So you can see it's just really pretty, very simple, and that's all you need for a beautiful card. So this again is called Lovely and Lasting, and it's got all kinds of sentiments. It's got thinking of you, happy birthday, thank you, oh hello, best of luck, cheers. It's got these pretty flowers. It's got a cool tile pattern. There's little florals that would work inside of the label as well. Little fleur-de-lis, another little flower. So it gives you all kinds of options when you're wanting to put together a beautiful card. And like I said, they have lots of samples within the catalog that you can look at for designing your own cards. Some are simple, some are more complicated, but really beautiful. And then they have coordinating cardstock that go with this, which I don't have at this time, but we'll show more of that later. So if anybody has any questions, I've got a Mary Ellen. Hi, hello from Montana. Hi, Mary, thank you for joining me. And if anybody has any questions with what I've shown you, it's just a simple card. We're just starting with basics. I've got all kinds of friends that didn't stamp before they met me, so I'm wanting to make sure that I give an opportunity for folks that want to learn some basic techniques. So just a really simple card. And then next week we'll move on to things that are a little more complicated. And as we go through this series of Facebook Lives, and it's going to be over the next year, we'll get into more techniques and more fun things to learn. So thank you so much for joining me. Again, it's Angela with Wildvioletsart, and I'll see you next Monday.